Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to be doing a deal breakdown of my very first business acquisition. And this is my very first time doing this because this is my very first business that I'm potentially buying. I'm about to go under contract on it as of on Thursday. But I want to talk about where did I find this deal? Where do you find all your businesses to buy? Number two, what does the numbers even look like? Do the numbers pencil out? Number three, how did you structure the deal? Was it a seller finance? Did you take over someone's, payment? Or is it an SBA loan like a traditional purchase? Number four, what are the upsides to this business and what are some of the downsides to this business? And number five, am I ultimately going to be moving forward with this deal? Yes, I'm about to go under contract on Thursday, but there's still things that I need to figure out. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. But before we get started, a couple of disclosures. I messed around with the camera a little bit, so the quality is not as good as it used to be. Like I look very red and very like like my skin. I don't know. It looks like I'm having a terrible skin day, but it's not. Second thing is, this is my very first business deal breakdown, so I'm going to be making a lot of mistakes along the way. So guys, forgive me as I do. But let's get started. Number one, where did the business come from? Okay, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. Let me actually pull this up real quick. Perfect. You can see it now. Where did the business come from? This is like $1 million question that a lot of people ask, and I always look back at it from a parallel from a business to a real estate, right? And in a real estate transaction, you have on-market stuff, you have off-market stuff, but you also have like referrals. You have like your family members selling their houses. That's how you get them. In this case, this actually came from a podcast that I did. All right, so I do a podcast or not a this is not like necessarily like a virtual podcast, but I do business tours on my YouTube channel. And one of the business tours that I went was in Las Vegas, Nevada. I went to Las Vegas to do a business tour with this guy, pool guy. He's in sub two. His name's Jonathan. And Jonathan already had the 203 pools that he was servicing at the moment. And I just went to interview him just to see like how is it like, having a pool business. And so that's where my relationship with Jonathan started. But when I was filming Jonathan, I actually got connected. One of my videographer works for Ryan Pineda, and his name is also Jonathan. And so we have two Jonathans, one that's filming and one that I'm interviewing, and there's me. There's Kevin Cho right here. And so three of us, we're doing this business tour together. And Jonathan and I, the owner of the pool business, him and I, have this relationship. Like that's a relationship we built. And I said, Jonathan, let me know when if you ever decide to expand your business. I might be able to bring capital to the table because I just sold all my houses. I might be able to bring resources to the table, like I can bring my CFO. I could bring systems and processes to the table, or what my expertise on scaling a business to the table. And so I said we can partner on things like that together. And he goes, okay. And 3 weeks later, and guys, this was in we're in April now. This was in March. This was only like beginning of March, so it's probably 4 weeks ago. I went, and then 3 weeks later, did I? I don't know if I said 3 weeks, but I don't know. Sometime in March, the owner of the pool business, Jonathan, comes to me and says, "Hey, Kevin, I have a pool business that I that we can partner on together. It's a 51 pool business, and I can use my resources, like my crew that I have, and we'll just partner. We'll just add 51 to my existing 203 pools that he already has. All right. Sorry, this writing is just terrible, but this is my extent of my artistic skills. Okay, this is the best I can get. So do not expect too much. So I'm like, okay, this is great. But then come to find out, the name of the pool business, let's just say, is ABC Pool Business. Let's just say the name of the pool business is ABC Pool Business. The owner of the business happened to be my videographer's dad's pool cleaning business, right? So what ended up happening was my videographer obviously gets connected with the guy that I'm filming with. Hey, can you send us some pictures? Can you send us some B-rolls? So like all of us have each other's phone number, and my videographer reaches out to Jonathan and says, "Hey, my dad is looking to sell his business," and then that's when Jonathan, the pool guy, reaches out to me and wants to partner with me. Sorry, like there's two Jonathans, so it gets kind of mixed up. But but this is essentially where the deal came from. Is it came from word of mouth. Came from word of mouth. And this is kind of the best kind of deals you can get. Not only because you're in direct negotiation with, the seller, right? You don't have a broker involved that's kind of getting in the way. But number two is you can typically structure a better deal that way, right? Because you know exactly what the other party wants. There's like we're not playing telephones here. It's like, hey, what do you want? Like, tell me exactly what you want, and I'll see if I can do it for you. So this is a word of mouth, and this is probably the best kind of deal flow you can get. Okay, so let me kind of lay down on how the numbers pencil out, right? So this is 51 routes. Over the course of the video, I might just say 50 or 51 just for the easy number sake, but it's 51 pools. And each pool, the average ticket size for monthly pool servicing for this ABC pool cleaning is $144 a month. Okay, so $145 a month, and there's 51. So what does that number come out to be? That comes out to be $7,395 every single month. Obviously, this is gross. This is not accounting for any labor or the materials, right? The chemicals. Typically on a pool business, you want to run like a 30 to 35% profit margin, right? Like that's a very healthy profit margin on a business because obviously, you have who's going to take care of the pools? Like you have employees that take care of the pools. Who's got the truck payments? Who's got the chemicals? Who's got the little nets that go around? Who's going to pay for the gas, right? So 30 to 35% profit margin business, and this business particular has 32% profit margin. So it's a very good business model. It's a very good profit margin business. And now, how you price the pool depends on how many months of payment you want to get up front, right? So typically on a pool business, you want to get like 9 months of monthly revenue as a purchase price, right? So if one pool is $150 and you price it at 9 months and you have 100 pools, that puts you at $135,000. Like that, this is how you typically price a pool business, right? Some might be shorter, some might be longer. I mean, and it depends on how big the scale is and how how well oiled machine the operation is. And there's so many factors that go into it, but that's a usually a great number to start. So in this pool business I'm specifically looking at, it was 51 routes. The purchase price is $32,000. $32,000 is what this seller of the business wants to sell the business for, and he's willing to sell it with $20,000 down payment, and then he's willing to carry $12,000, $1,000 a month for 12 months, which comes out to be 0% interest rate. This is a very basic seller finance, and it's not hard at all. Like the structure of this deal is very easy. Okay, well, let's see if it's a good deal, right? You want to find out how many months of monthly servicing payment am I going to sell the business for. So in this case, this was 4.5 months versus the industry average of 8 to 9 months. So this was a discounted rate for this pool business, right? So it was 145 times 4.5 times 51. That puts you at around 32,000. Let me do the math. 145 times 4.5 times 51. 33. It comes out to be 33,000. But roughly it's around it's between 4 to 5 months of monthly payments, right? And I said, well, this is a good deal, right? Like you're getting at a discount somewhat, and you're also getting this at a seller finance where I don't have to get the SBA lenders involved, and I can strike this deal out relatively quickly because I don't have to go through all the underwriting process, and this is a smaller purchase price. And because I structured this business as a seller finance, there are a couple of contingencies that I put into place that I kind of brought up to the table so that my money is protected, right? So Jonathan wants to run it, right? Jonathan wants to run it. He's going to own 50%, and I am going to own the other 50%, but I'm only going to bring the money for the down payment, and I'm not going to have any more involvement going forward, right? Which is kind of the most ideal situation is you want to have an experienced operator that's going to operate the business, and you just bring some sort of resource to the table, and your job is done beyond that point. Okay, so if I don't know how to run a pool business, which I don't, how am I going to protect my $20,000 initial investment, right? Not only from the seller, but also from my future partner, Jonathan, right? So if this ABC pool business guy sells for $20,000 and and he has 51 routes. And by the way, the average uh year of the route is, I think it was about between 4 to 5 years. So it's not, so these are more seasoned routes. It's not something that like they just bought they just acquired 51 routes. But so now how do I protect myself? How do I protect my 20 grand from the seller, right? What could happen is I could buy the business, and then out of the 51 routes, like, they say, you know what, I only wanted to work with the owner of the previous business, and I'm going to cancel. So now my routes go down to 40, let's just say. So 11 people drop. I need to be able to compensate for the 11 people that drop, because like no matter how good the service is, if people just don't want to work with a new owner, you know, there's loss in the revenue, right? Like when you used to go to the same barber each and every time, and next time you go to that barber shop, and that barber's not there, you're going to switch to a different barber, right? So there will be loss of revenue that happens when you're acquiring these businesses. So I said, well, if 11 people drop, I'm gonna make sure the $12,000 that you're a seller financing me on, I'm gonna deduct it from the principal amount. And I hope this kind of makes sense, because I know I'm very I do go very fast. But if 11 people drop and I lose, let's just say 11 times, let's just say 150, that means the 1650 is the revenue that I lose because of this particular, because the client doesn't want to work with a new owner anymore. Then I'm going to deduct 1650 from the $12,000, so that my 51 pools is compensated for, right? I bought the 51 pools so that the 51 pools generate revenue, not the 40 pools that generate revenue. So that's how I protected myself from the seller. And then obviously we're doing a 1 year seller finance, which is long enough time for me to for my partner and I to completely transition everything over. And most of the time, here's the thing about pool business is when I had a house back in Phoenix. I had a pool. I was paying $170 a month because it was a really deep pool, and it was a big pool. I never really saw my pool guy. Like my pool guy was his name was Mitch, and he came over on a Monday at 9:30 a.m. every single week. I rarely saw him. I think I saw him like 2 times over the course of 6 months that I've lived at the house. Like it's very like who I didn't care if Mitch was gonna show up, or some Mitch's son was gonna show up. That didn't really matter to me. I was more concerned about like, hey, is my pool getting clean? So it's a 1 year is very sufficient time for transfer of a business to happen. But and I think 1 year is just how we landed that 1 year is because of the seller finance. That's how the numbers just kind of penciled out. If you're a small business owner just like me, I want to introduce you to Relay. Relay is an online banking that I've been using for all of my business for the last 3 years, and I've never looked back. And here are a few things that I really like about Relay from personal experience. First off is the $5 wire fees compared to the $25 or more you pay at traditional banks like Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and other credit unions. Saving money on every transaction means more money for your business. Personally, for me, I've saved lots of money doing lending. So if you're in the lending business, definitely check out Relay. Also, if you run business under an LLC like I do, Relay lets you create up to 20 bank accounts under one LLC, which is perfect for managing different aspects of your business, whether it's income, expenses, or taxes, all from one easy to use platform. And probably my favorite part is that there are no monthly fees or minimum balance requirements. That means I never have to put money just to have an account, and I can focus on growing my business without ever worrying about hidden charges. And just because of this, I probably have saved at least $4,000 to $5,000 a year across all the hidden fees I was able to avoid for the last 3 years because I switched to Relay. So if you're a small business owner under the revenue of $5 million, I highly recommend checking out Relay, as I have been using them for the last 3 years, and I can personally vouch for them. So now back to the video. And here is how I structure my deal with Jonathan, the pool guy, the owner of the business. I said, hey, Jonathan, I can bring $20,000 to the table, and we can pay out the previous seller, $1,000 a month. No problem, right? But I want to make sure I get all my money back out within the first 24 months, right? Which means my requirement is I need to have a 50% cash on cash return on the business, right? If I'm not getting 50% cash on cash return on my money, then I don't want to do the deal. So I'm gonna initially put the $20,000 in, and I'm going to get and after the seller is fully paid out after a year, I'm all the 100% of the profit from the business will come to me so that I can get my $20,000 out, and then after my $20,000 is paid out, then we can take distributions, which in 24 months should be ample of time. But this is now where most of the businesses come from. We're only looking at this pool business from the monthly servicing. And what most people don't realize, and by the way, this pool is in Vegas, right? So like pools get used about, all the time, especially in the summer. A lot of the money that comes from the pool business is actually in the pool repairs, right? When the pumps go out, and also when someone goes, you know what, I'm gonna replaster my pool before the summer, then that's also a big renovation or big project that's beyond the monthly revenue. Like that's on top of the monthly revenue. So I said, you know what? If we have 51 pools, and at least like two of them, replaster the pool, or we have to do we have to repair the pools in some sort of fashion. Let's just say I make like $5,000 per customer, right? I don't know the ticket size. It could be big, it could be small. But this business can bring $5,000 from one customer that wants to replaster the pool, or any repairs to the pool. That means I only need to have four customers to make my money back upfront without even accounting for the monthly services, right? So that's the way I looked at this business. My intention is that the money that I initially put in, this $20,000, will stay in the business for at least 24 months. If I get the money back earlier, great. And I'm going to use that same money to deploy into other businesses with the same partner. So let's talk about what was the attractive thing about this business that made me want to buy this business versus what are some of the things that made me a little bit more hesitant, right? And guys, I've been just ever since I started my business and my business acquisitions, I've underwrote a lot of deals. I have people from Instagram, people from Facebook, people from all my social media platforms sending me businesses to buy. So I look at a lot of deals. And if you guys are wanting me to buy your business or partner with me on a business, email will be down in the description box below so you can partner with me. Okay. So if you have any business inquiries, email me. Okay. But as I looked at a lot of businesses to buy, the reason why I was attracted to this business specifically was that number one, that it had an experienced operator in place. I do not want to buy a business where I have to be the operator myself, right? I look at every single other businesses that I've owned, right? My rental portfolio, like I never operated that. I raised the money, I brought the deal to the table, but then I was off and running doing other businesses, right? My wholesale business, I never operated it. I had a partner that operated it, but I brought all the opportunities to the table. So I know what I'm capable of, right? I am the guy that brings all the opportunities to the table, and then I have operators on the back end that take care of everything for me. I had a transaction coordinator. I never did the paperwork, right? So I love the fact that this business had an experienced operator, that he just wanted to be the operator. Like he didn't want to be Kevin Cho. He did not want to be on camera. He did not want to do all these things. He just wanted to operate, and he was happy with that. And number two, it was a lower down payment business. This only required $20,000 down payment. And yes, in pro rata, like you're putting 60% down on a business, which is very high. But 20 grand is something that I'm kind of willing to lose if I learned a lot of lesson from it, right? So it was relatively low down payment business. And that this is also about to be my first business. So I wanted to learn by doing a business that did not have too much risk on the downside. I did not necessarily want to buy like a $3 million business as my first business and it goes horribly wrong because I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. I know that. And I end up going bankrupt. Like that's the worst case scenario, but I just did not want that to happen. If worst comes to worst on this one, I just lose my 20 grand and I learned a lesson, right? I learned my lesson. And I would rather learn the same lesson doing at a smaller risk than a $3 million business, right? So that was number three. Number four was that it was in Las Vegas. And this is a more of a personal decision, but I lived in Vegas. And I also invested in Vegas, right? So I know the market very well, not as well as Maricopa County, like Arizona, but I know Clark County, Las Vegas very well. And I know what the demand is like. I know that it's, there's consistent flow of people moving from California to Las Vegas, like my family did. And honestly, if all else failed, I'll move to Las Vegas to make sure this business doesn't go south, right? So the business was in the location where I did not mind moving to, right? Like this is something that not really a lot of people talk about is I never wanted to buy a business where like in middle of Missouri or middle of North Dakota, like because what's the worst case scenario is like you have to go to physically go to that location and take care of people. Like I don't want to live in those places. I don't mind living in California. I don't mind living in Vegas, Phoenix, Texas, Florida, like Carolinas, but I don't want to live in Kansas City, right? But this business was in Las Vegas. And also, I have a very good investor network there. So I could just build a business just by saying, hey guys, if you guys have any rentals that have pool, use me. And my friends will use me. So that's an opportunity for me to grow my business. Couple of downsides to this business was that number one, this business had way too high percentage of a down payment. And I know I said the opposite on the upsides, but this is a 65% down payment. Or at least I think it is. Let me do the math. Like this business requires 62% down payment versus if I were to go the SBA route and put down 10 to 15%, I can go after higher leverage opportunities, right? Like 20 grand down, I could buy a $200,000 business, not a 300, not a $30,000 business. And number two is that the closing cost, and I say closing cost, but the doc fees when it comes to M&A was a lot higher than I thought, right? Like typically in real estate, you have closing costs that's like, 0.75% or 1% of the final purchase price of the real estate, right? But in this case, when I was on the attorney call with my attorney Robert, he says, "This is it. I'm not advising you not to do the business, but just on the doc fees alone, it's gonna cost you at least $27,000." But I kind of think to myself, if I'm buying a business for 32,000 with 20 grand down payment, and then I also have to pay $27,000 in doc fees. It's like, why am I spending all this money? Like doc fees of $27,000 could be the same amount of money even if I was buying a $500,000 business, right? It might be slightly more, but the doc fees don't really change too much, too drastically. So I said, if I'm paying $27,000 for this, why don't I just buy a bigger business that has bigger upside, right? Like I'm paying 62% down payment, and I'm paying, close to 80% of the purchase price goes to preparing the documents. So that's kind of the things that I'm like, I don't know if this is the best deal for me. I don't know if this is the best opportunity. I might be better off just waiting a couple months for a better business opportunity to come by, and then I buy a better business then. So those are the only two downsides to this business. There wasn't really that much, and I'm kind of on the fence whether I want to move forward with this business or not, just because I know that if I waited longer, I know a better business opportunity will come. It's just like kind of like real estate, right? A good deal might come today, but then a better deal might come a month from now. The best deal might come 2 months from now. And it's a matter of, do I want to just take dollar today, or do I want to wait 2 months and take $10 in 2 months, right? So it's like I know there are better opportunities out there. And a couple of things I forgot to mention was structure of the deal legality wise. Like how are we going to structure this deal, right? And one thing that was brought up during my conversation with my attorney Robert was I'm essentially creating two conflicting businesses, right? Jonathan here already has 200 routes, and he's gonna go create a separate LLC with me to go buy this 50 pool. So now, if a business comes to the table, if a seller comes to the table and says, "I have a pool, I want my pool service," and this person goes to Jonathan. Jonathan has to now decide, am I going to service his pool under my LLC, or am I going to service this pool under Kevin and I LLC? Now you have two conflicting businesses. So one method that my attorney, brought up to the table was, how about you buy into Jonathan's LLC to begin with, right? So if Jonathan already has 200 and then I have 50 and we're going to buy additional 50, that means we're going to have 250 pools. But out of the 50, I'm going to have 25 and Jonathan's going to have 25, right? So because we're doing 50-50. So essentially, I have 25 pools out of Jonathan's 250 pool business, which is if pro rata, which means proportionally, I own 10%. So it's effectively I could have this LLC buy into the entire 50% of the 50 pools, and I just buy into his existing business so that there is no conflict of interest. And that is a couple of things that was brought up. But that is kind of the gist of this business. I do understand that this was kind of all over the place. This is my very first time underwriting a business on my YouTube channel. So guys, forgive me for being all over the place. I promise you I'll get better. But this is kind of where we are. Is I love the business. I love how there's existing operator in place, and the fact that I'm going to be a passive investor. That is a very big upside for me, and that this is a fun business. Like this is a fun project that I could partake in, right? So we are going under contract on it on Thursday. Yes, although there are downsides to this business, there are a lot of upsides, and I will most likely going to be following through with this purchase. So, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys have any questions, link down in the description box below. If you guys want to partner with me on your business or sell me your business, email down below. Email me and show some support for me because this is me getting out of my comfort zone and doing something new that I've never done before, especially this business acquisition. So I love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.